Creepypasta story. Poopsy. Poopsy was a normal girl who was 11 years old, but she had a special mind. The other girls were all not as special and teased Poopsy. The main bully was called Berta, and she wore a purple cardigan and had blonde hair. It was lunch at school, and kids were eating when Berta walked up to Poopsy. "Poopsy, you are ugly and no one loved you," said Bertha to Poopsy's face. Poopsy cried, "It's not my fault," as Bertha laughed at her. Poopsy threw her tacos. Poopsy threw her tacos in the bin and went home. At home, she cut herself because she was depressed. Her mother walked in and asked if she wanted anything from the shop. Ooh. It was the next day and the sun was shining. Poopsy had cereal for breakfast, but when licking her spoon clean and putting it back in drawer, she took a knife. It was a brutal, ominous, sharp knife. Can knives be ominous? She imagined it in Berta's head and got the feeling again. At school, she had the knife in her bag along with some sunshine. Lunch came, and she sat next to a boy named Grubbs. What kind of name is Grubbs? Grubbs had black hair and a bike which he rode to school on. Suddenly, Berta walked up to Poopsy. "So, Poopsy, have you seen any ghosts recently?" cackled Berta. "I didn't wish to be born like this," sighed Poopsy as she clutched the knife. Berta spat in her face and walked away. "Hey, you can't let Berta talk to you like that," said Grubbs. "You don't understand. I have a special mind," sighed Poopsy as she flicked her hair out of her eyes. "Embrace it," smiled Grubbs. "I see ghosts too." Poopsy spat out her milk. "You see ghosts too?" "Yes, that is what I said," said Grubbs as he smiled. Where did this seeing ghosts plot point get introduced? Poopsy finally had a friend. She and Grubbs went to the cemetery together and saw ghosts. "I am finally happy," she cried with joy as she threw the knife at the ground. "I don't need to kill Berta," she thought to herself as she rode away with Grubbs on his bike. 2 months went by and Poopsy and Grubbs were officially dating, of course. Suddenly she heard a scream that sounded both lovely yet horrifying. She ran to find what the scream was, and she saw Grubbs lying on the floor with rocks on his head. Berta stood opposite him, throwing rocks at his head. "Stop it!" cried Poopsy. "I love him!" "I know, that's why I'm throwing rocks at him," said Berta. Poopsy ran all the way to the cemetery to get the knife. She found it and ran back to school and jumped at Berta. The two were fighting a battle of good versus evil. Poopsy had a knife. Berta had rocks. Poopsy was obviously the better fighter. Don't bring rocks into a knife fight. But then Berta threw a rock and hit the knife out of Poopsy's hand. Wow, she's very good at throwing rocks. That was very precise. "That's the best you got? I can just pick the knife back up," chuckled Poopsy. She had a good mind, so analyzed situations well. As she went to pick it up, she gasped. The knife had landed on Grubbs' face! "You monster!" screamed Poopsy. "Me? You were the one who dropped the knife into his head," smirked Bertha as she walked to class. "Grubbs, you were the only one who understood me," whimpered Poopsy. "Poopsy," moaned Grubbs as his life ended. She pulled the knife out of his face and saw blood on it. Grubbs's blood. The only way I can clear Grubs' blood from my hands is with Berta's blood, smiled Poopsy as she got the feeling again. A tingly sensation, so to speak. You guess maybe you could say, I don't know, Jeff the Killer syndrome? That night, Berta climbed into bed. She snuggled up in the blankets and started to snooze off before she noticed a pair of eyes watching her. Who's there? Berta yelled. Oh, I have a name, the voice said. But you people tend to call me other names. Crazy, weird, fat. Poopsy? Muttered Berta. Suddenly, the figure jumped at Berta, revealing herself as Poopsy, no one's surprised by that, and stabbed Berta with the same knife that killed Grubs. Oh, we've gone full circle, guys. This is so symbolic and nice. Berta let out a scream as she died, and Poopsy whispered in her ear, I'm sorry I kill you. ... The end. That was the story of Poopsy, the killer, and how she became killer, and about her special mind. That is what the legit description said.